Tuning into the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello and welcome to a brand new UFC on AfterBuzz TV. My name is Daria Berenato and I'm here with the boys, both in collared shirts. This is a nice change. Mr. George Hermoza and Mr. J Tan.
Hello there.
I'm wearing an undershirt. Are you?
Yeah, I'm wearing an undershirt. Mine's red though.
That's not an undershirt, unless it's under ruse. What is it?
It's under your shirt.
What's okay?
Undershirt.
In a matter of speaking,
an undershirt.
I'm guessing it's a wrestling shirt.
No, it's like a Quicksilver red shirt.
Really?
Yeah. You know what's funny? I only have like 3 wrestling shirts.
No, you don't.
I
Maybe
really
in
do.
rotation right now.
No. Okay,
but I'm sure there's a closet full of wrestling with this guy.
I have a CM Punk shirt, a Bullet Club shirt, an Evolution shirt. Okay, maybe more. Okay, maybe more. Evolution, Mr. Kennedy, Randy Orton. But I will order a Piper shirt and a...
But you're not going
to... I'll tie it all to UFC. I'll tie it all to MMA watches.
Bring it back to bacon.
So I was going to order actually a Bailey shirt and a Piper shirt. I mean, you know, obviously, but actually, I actually ran into Gene LeBell actually not too long ago.
Judo Gene?
Yeah, he actually came into my store. I'm not going to say where I work because everybody's going to stalk
That
me.
has nothing to do with their shirt collection.
No, but
not that we're getting on topic anyway
no,
here.
But, you know, tying into Gene LeBell, obviously a guy who is very familiar with Roddy Piper and Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
Yes, very good.
So
leading us.
He gave me actually a couple gifts. Actually, I forgot to bring them, but
Did you get the patches?
I got
he gives out patches,
and
guys.
I get the badges.
The badge.
The Ronda Rousey badges.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Judo Gene LeBell, guys, obviously we've talked about him in the past, a great pioneer in MMA, but if you're in the Southern California area, if you're in LA and you have the privilege of meeting this guy, first of all, he's got punchlines galore, proverbially and literally, so stay on his good side, number one. But number two, if you can make him smile or something, if you can give him candy, that will make him smile a lot. He loves his chocolates, okay? Big bag of chocolates whenever you see him at MMA events. But also, if you're on his good side, he'll give you these patches, like iron-on patches, right?
Man, and I thought
Did
it
you
was
see about
special. Yeah.
Okay,
I was
there
thinking,
you go.
he gave them to me, and I'm like, oh man, I'm so cool.
Yes.
Turns out he gives everybody a bunch of patches.
No, but you have to cross a certain threshold, man. I mean, you're in the fold now, you know? As Roddy Piper would have said, you're in the frat, kind of. You know what I mean?
I hope so. I mean, I have a number.
If you got a Judo Gene LeBell patch, guys, that's reason enough to come to LA. I mean, come on. Come to our the new studios, which we'll talk about later. But, beyond that, come meet Judo Gene LeBell in Southern California. You'll get a patch.
Well, you guys can follow me on Twitter. The road to 400 followers begins as I surpass...
The privilege of meeting this
I should really turn on the volume once I have the chat roll on. I surpassed 300 followers on Twitter.
Congratulations.
And now, hashtag road to 400 followers begins.
Why are you so popular all of a sudden?
I mean, how many followers do you have?
I don't have any.
Oh, really?
I don't have a Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Just kidding.
This whole time?
At Tough Daria.
Tough Daria. How many followers do you have?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I do.
More than 400?
Probably a little bit
Show
more.
off.
402. Somebody check that for me and let me know if it's right. Okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night 74, Holloway versus Oliveira. This turned out to be a pretty good fight card. We had 2 performance bonuses that were on the prelims, so that says something about the card. Mm-hmm. And then it was in Saskatoon.
Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan.
Saskatoon.
And it's Canada.
Yes.
Canada.
It was in Canada. That's what I need to know.
Probably the original Sasquatch sighting.
Really?
I believe. Henceforth, the name Sasquatch in Saskatchewan.
Very interesting. I'm not going to say that ever again.
Before we go down the card, or before you get on the card, let me just say I'm so disappointed that Sean O'Connell did not get to fight. I think he pulled out of a fight, but look up Sean O'Connell weigh-ins. That guy's got the best weigh-ins like ever.
Yeah.
Look him up.
He's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, Daniel Jolly was the first fight of the night, and actually Daniel Jolly jumping in last minute to replace him. And it did not go well for Mr. Jolly.
No,
he was not
it
jolly.
Didn't. We're going to start right there, Mr. J Tan. Thank you for leading me there. The early prelims on Fight Pass, you could see them. Misha Serkunov defeated Daniel Jolly via KO in round 1. Oof. Then we had Shane Campbell defeating Elias Silverio via unanimous decision. And then jumping up to the prelims that were on Fox Sports 1, if you guys saw them, Chris Kalidas defeated Chris Beal via split decision. This was a bit of a controversial finish here. And then we had Nikita Krylov defeating Marcos
He was a good wrestler.
Rogerio
He still is, apparently.
De Lima. Yes, apparently he is. Via submission rear naked choke. Felipe Arantes defeated Yves
Jabouin.
Yves Jabouin. I knew I was going to screw that one up. Via armbar in round 1. And Frankie Perez defeated Sam Stout via TKO in round 1. That was one of our fight of the night. Performance bonuses was Frankie Perez. And then jumping up to the main card, we had the females starting us off. Valerie. Leterneau. Okay. Much easier than it looks. Defeated Marina. Oh, it's not spelled typically. Marose via unanimous decision. Next on the main card.
Let her do this one. Don't help her. Go for it.
Oliviera. Albin. Mercier defeated Tony Sims. I said it right?
You did say Tony Sims correctly.
Yeah. We're going to leave it at that.
Olivier Albin Mercier, I believe.
Olivia Albin.
Just remember they're in
That's
Canada.
What I said. What?
With some French Canadian, obviously.
Yeah. Anyway, Tony Sims lost. Unanimous decision. Short notice fight, though, for Tony, so props to him for stepping in. Next, in the lightweight division, we have Francisco Trinaldo defeating Chad Lepre via TKO in round 1. Then we had Patrick Coté defeating Josh Burkman via TKO in round 3.
That was a good fight.
It was a good fight. Coté impressed me. We're going to talk about that, though. Neil Magny defeated Eric Silva via split decision. I have to agree with this split decision. Some did not, though. It was supposed to be Silva versus Rick Story. Rick Story couldn't fight again, and Neil Magny stepped in, so kudos to Neil. And then Max Holloway, the number 5 ranked competitor, defeated Charles Oliveira, the number 7 ranked competitor, via TKO in round 1. Oh, due to injury. We'll talk about that later.
There's a couple of weird finishes to this one for sure.
Yeah.
Show really kind of, I think it kind of proved to be a lot better better live than on paper. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of, honestly, there wasn't a whole lot that jazzed me about this particular card. Probably less than any other one this year. But that said, you've got a bunch of first round finishes, an exciting match with Coté versus Burkman that certainly paid off. And you saw some new guys, Misha Serkunov, and continuing Nikita Krylov, Frankie Perez. Really interesting story there, and the unfortunate situation with Holloway and Oliveira. But there was a lot to digest out of this show. That's for sure.
There definitely was, and it was in Canada, which we always get a good showing when we go to Canada. Mm-hmm. It's one of those
their first time in Saskatoon, no less.
Right, but as a country as a whole, we usually get a good turnout, and the fans are amazing. I compare them to the Irish fans, to the German fans, and to our local fans, our Vegas fans.
Nothing compares to the Irish fans.
That's true. That's true. But Canadian fans are pretty darn into it.
Yeah, I agree.
They are pretty darn hardcore. So let's start at the bottom of the main card with the ladies. Actually, it's funny. Valerie trained an American Top Team, and I would always see her in Crossing at the headquarters. I never sparred her or anything, but I would see her in Crossing. And I know that Hector Lombard is a big kind of mentor to her. They're always working together on her stand-up and all kinds of stuff. I'm sure he teaches her some judo. But she needed no teachings in this fight because she defeated Marina Marose via unanimous decision. It was one of those matches where it was just a good striking match back and forth. The ladies stood toe-to-toe and just banged it out. Valerie dropped Marose in the first round. She was doing a good job of controlling Marose on the ground. Then Marose kind of got that inverted triangle that she held for almost the entire first round, which was interesting. And the next 2 rounds kind of finished up the same, striking toe-to-toe.
29-28, 29-28. I gave Leterneau all 3 rounds. I'm not quite sure which one Marose might have won. I'm guessing the second. The head trap that you were talking about in the first looked a lot. I thought it looked a lot cooler than it necessarily looked threatening. Leterneau, like you said, was having the time of her life with the striking there. Her jab was working effectively in the first. But I don't. Marose rocked Leterneau. Like, the only thing I could figure out, at about, I think, with a minute 10 left in the second, she dropped Valerie. Or she rocked her, but didn't drop her.
She
got wobbled.
Yeah, she just wobbled.
Valerie didn't hit the floor, but she was a little bit on rubber legs there, and that was about the best that I could figure out, other than the cosmetic thing with the headlock. But I don't think that. I hope the judges wouldn't have.
I think the round that they gave Marose was the round that she had the inverted triangle for, because she had it for 3 minutes or 2 minutes of the round. And I think they gave her control points, which I get it. She is controlling the position. Valerie was completely and utterly helpless in that position because you're stuck.
Yeah, but she wasn't threatened. And I mean, Valerie dropped her with the right. Well, you're not the referee, so why am I arguing with you?
Hey.
I
agree.
I absolutely think that Leterneau had that round. It was a cool looking thing, but it certainly wasn't threatening.
It wasn't threatening, but once again, she did have the control.
I've been kind of looking forward to seeing Marina Marose fight again since she beat Joanne Calderwood.
She did
a few months ago. So I'm thinking, wow, she's good enough to beat JoJo, my lovely, beautiful JoJo.
We all know you love JoJo.
Yeah, and I was like, kind of want to see how she turns out, but yeah, unfortunately, she was not able to capitalize on that victory.
No, I mean, she has great striking, and she was really trying to utilize that front teep kick, but it wasn't doing anything for her. It wasn't landing, and Valerie just seemed like the overall confident, really a Muay Thai striker that really had no problem initiating when she wanted to and staying out of harm's way when she wanted to. She kind of had her way with the striking match.
Do we have anybody in the chat room? I'm wondering.
Me?
I was trying to.
I'm in the chat room. I mean, I am.
You are? Anybody else?
Apparently not.
All right.
Womp, womp, womp.
Deviating from our usual people here. Let's go back one though. Frankie Perez and Sam Stout. That man, I don't think we'll see that again anytime soon. Besides the fact, I mean, my predictions are way off the mark here. I had Stout winning, and I mean, for the most of the undercard, I failed miserably. But Frankie Perez finishing Sam Stout in under a minute TKO, just blatant. I mean, Perez, he drops him drops Stout with a right, and then 4 more punches following up ground and pound. But then the guy is now 1-1. This was his second match in the UFC. Got his victory over Sam Stout, and proceeds to retire right there on the spot in his second match, first UFC victory ever. That shocked me. I was fascinated by that.
That's a little bizarro.
Yeah. I think I read that he's ending his career at 9-1. Certainly not a shabby record, but he said, I love this part. He was talking about wanting to kind of this was his dream, I guess, to get a victory in the UFC. And I got a quote, I believe it was from an article from Damon Martin, so I don't know if he quoted him directly, but it said, "I want to open a school, find a girl, and make some babies." This is a cage fighter acknowledging that his biological clock is ticking, and it's time to step out of the cage and I don't know, create some babies. Well, essentially,
hopefully he's got $50,000 to get that dream going.
Well, he does. Yeah, exactly. And I suppose any girls that see this one go, "Oh, he knows when to step away. He's a tough guy. He's macho.
I don't say that.
You are definitely not going to say that, but that's completely separate.
You big baby, get back in the cage."
No, the guy's got his priorities good. And what I found fascinating too, I think, who else was the other one? I'm looking here. It might have been, it was Coté. Coté, in his post-fight speech as well, there was something about the hormones going on amongst the fighters. Because Coté says, to my coach, congratulations, he just had a baby, and my buddy, he also had a baby. Everyone's having babies except for me, but I'm working on it. What cage fighter says that in the middle of the cage, unless to use as a line to hook other chicks? That's why you get into the cage business, into cage fighting, is to sign autographs and bang hot chicks. Not really true, actually. Even Dana will say no. But not the point. The point is that was the weirdest moment. That retirement I thought was fantastic, going on in his own terms.
Right.
And certainly against Sam Stout, that's a hell of a name to hang your hat on, right? But then on top of that, all these quotes about making babies and stuff. I was like,
I don't know. Baby fever going on in Canada.
Is it the time of the month for the men, perhaps?
Maybe. Or maybe.
I don't think it's sexist because we're talking about the fellas, and I didn't know that apparently cage fighters could ovulate.
Or maybe all of Canada is ovulating, and that was in the atmosphere, so they were like, we just have to have babies now.
I heard they got some good beer.
They do, in fact, Canada has bière forte, or strong beer, as
I
they
was
say.
only in Canada once, and I was not old enough to drink beer.
Shout out to Molson and Labatt's. I practically grew up on them. When it was legal to do so, that is. But that was one of the more fascinating matches and storylines from the undercard.
Yeah, that's pretty damn interesting. I mean, I do like when a guy retires on a win rather than a loss, because when someone retires after a loss, you're like, ooh, he just has to give it up.
Yeah.
But when someone retires on a win, it's like, damn. He just beat Sam Stout, and he's cool with his life, and he's ready to move on. So,
I think it's an interesting telltale sign that I remember in the post-fight interview he talked about being tired of putting his body through it and putting his family through, I guess, the cut and the training and things like that. He's picking quality of life. At least if we take this at face value, he's picking quality of life over a continued career as a cage fighter. Granted, at the top level, the UFC, but that's quite something to walk away from. To make that decision, which we don't see a lot of guys do that per se until they're forced out. Until, as you said, they lose one too many, and Dana essentially retires them, or has that talk with them.
I guess he's like he said, he wanted to open a school. He has other dreams besides cage fighting, and hey, kudos to him. Yeah, everyone has their path, and he chose his for sure.
I think that that's a really good thing. Hopefully, we will see more fighters. I don't want to say we'll see more fighters retire early, but hopefully we'll see more fighters feel comfortable in making that decision. That, I think, is such the important thing, is that at this young age, he was able to say, all right, that's enough. I'm moving on with life.
Definitely a mature decision, because, like, for example, myself, I could never see myself being like, oh, I'm just done with sports. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'll be that 50-year-old woman, like, I can still play, or
You'll be trying something new. You'll be going from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other.
I'm pretty consistent, but, I think I'll stick to the two I'm in. But it'll definitely be a thing where I will be the lady with the cane that still wants to play basketball at the court with the kids. It's just something in an athlete, some athletes I should say, that they just they always want to get that adrenaline rush.
You'll never play basketball with a cane.
Why?
I'll put money on that.
I can put the ball in the hoop with my cane. I can hit it in.
That's baseball.
Oh crap. I knew I should have played softball in high school. Anyway, let's go on. Mercier defeating Tony Sims via unanimous decision. Once again, Tony Sims took this fight on short notice, so kudos to him for doing so, but didn't exactly work out in your favor. Mercier came out with great wrestling, grinding Sims to the ground, taking him to the mat. Mercier gets Sims back and is working for a choke pretty much for that whole first round. He's working for that rear naked choke. Round 3, Sims stuffs the takedown, makes Mercier pay with some great punches and elbows. I thought it was going to be over there for a second. I was like, this is the comeback. This is the comeback. Really good control. I was actually really happy to see that, because I really thought it was going to be a one-sided fight, a really lopsided fight.
I think it still was, in my opinion. I gave
it was definitive.
Aubin Mercier all 3. In fact, I gave him a 10-8 on the first round.
Right.
By the time it really was Aubin Mercier's match to lose. He was great with his takedowns and ground control. Got the back a lot with the body lock, and that certainly took a lot out of Sims. By the third round, Sims, it was nice to see Sims turn it up a little bit, but by that point it was really too little too late. Right. And I think that the damage, especially with the body lock, that took a lot out of him, and he was just kind of done, but went out on his sword, I suppose. But it was still Aubin Mercier all the way to me.
I definitely had Mercier all 3 rounds completely definitively, but I did see amazing stuff out of Tony Sims, and I don't always say this. Usually when there's a clear winner, there's a clear winner, and I'm a one-sided chick, but in this one, I like Tony Sims' style. He was aggressive. He went for that guillotine, I think it was at the 3rd round. Right. And I was like, kudos to you. He definitely had balls.
Yeah, he did. On the shot, with the guillotine, he was going for it, but Yeah, I think it was by that point that
it
the
was
writing was on
definitely
the
over.
wall there.
Y'all just stole the words out of my mouth. Like everything I was gonna say, you guys just said.
Oh, well then don't even talk. Just sit there. Oh, wait.
You wanted to do that? Really? It's hard enough pulling words out of this guy as it is, and you just like super glued the top on the teapot shut.
No.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, Alexis.
I was doing the whole parenting method where it's reverse psychology. If I tell him to be quiet, then he's going to talk our ears off. Right?
You really think the Jedi mind trick works on this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not even listening anymore.
That's the face of a little Jedi.
Maybe Yoda.
Yoda. That's what I call my coach. Anyway, I love these sound effects. So Francisco Trinaldo defeated Chad Lepre via TKO in round 1. Chad came out super confident. His striking looked great. Landed a nice head kick in the beginning. Then Lepre gets rocked, pulls guard, it looked like. Trinaldo gets on top, is landing bombs.
Flattened him out.
Bombs.
Yeah, full mount to the back, flattened him out, and tag him back. And this was sad. And Chad was one of these guys that I really started to, I enjoyed starting to kind of rally around. He's becoming a personal favorite, winning his season of Tough. I think it was Nations, right? Canada versus Australia. And undefeated. This is his first loss. And he was just looking in each of his matches since he started fighting regularly in the UFC. I feel like we've seen huge improvements with him. He's super aggressive. Doesn't look like the type necessarily that would be your more aggressive fighter, but he comes out swinging. He's serious in the cage, and sharp technically. And Trinaldo was just, I think, a bit too big for him.
Too big, too fast, too powerful.
Yeah, his power was insane. Chad Lepre is one of those guys that he comes out there and you're like, oh, I want to watch this guy fight. Because he is really, really confident in there. That's what really struck me was he was going... Not many fighters stand tall anymore. And I think that was something to point out. He stood so tall and his kicks just came off his hips so nicely and his strikes looked amazing. But the thing I noticed as soon as he went out there was, oh my God, Trinaldo's strikes are so powerful, and there's something in that where you're like, okay, Lepre is making the better of the striking, but just one of those bombs could knock Lepre out at any moment. And I was kind of waiting for that. As soon as the match started, I was like, that's gonna be the end of this match.
This was another one that I expected didn't go the way that I expected. I had Trinaldo. There's a pretty, if I remember correctly, I want to look here, but pretty significant age difference between the two. Oh, that's right. Trinaldo, I think the next day. Today, in fact, maybe, his birthday, turning 37 years old.
Wow.
Now, I am happy to say that 37 years old does not necessarily make you old. Okay, guys.
Jay, how old are you?
But, shut up. But Chad, the size and the speed of Trinaldo, too much for even a young whippersnapper like him.
Right.
But I think we'll see him come back stronger and better. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that this is the nail in the coffin, obviously, for Chad Lepre. He was on a hot rocket before this fight, and I hope he continues that after.
Yeah.
Next, definitely my favorite fight of the night, and possibly my favorite fighter of the night, Patrick Coté, defeating Josh Burkman via TKO in round 3.
Frankie Perez would be my favorite fitter of the night, but
if he didn't retire.
He's no longer a fighter. Yeah, can't say it.
You can't put him on your fantasy MMA leagues. Does that exist?
Yes.
Yeah. Can we play?
Go for it.
That would be so much fun. Let's make this like
There's a bunch of them out there, yeah.
Oh my God.
I would lose so bad.
Why would you lose? You're like Mr. Statistic. That's why you would lose.
I'm Mr. Statistic, not Mr. Prediction.
True. Call me Mrs. Prediction. Anyway, so Patrick Coté defeated Josh Burkman via TKO in round 3. Burkman landing hard shots on Coté. Coté showing off that strong chin. He was eating them time after time. I was like, when's this guy going to go down? When's this guy going to go down? And he just was not taking yes for an answer, I guess you could say. End of round 1, Coté landed a hard right that rattled Josh, but he survived it until the bell. It was right at the end of that round. Burkman waiting and countering. That was kind of the story the entire time. Burkman would wait and counter. And that's such a hard thing to do, though, because there's a fine line between waiting and countering and getting driven backwards and steered around and completely, ran over. But he did a really good job of keeping cage control, although he wasn't striking that much. So, I mean, that style is just hard to pull off. So kudos to Burkman for that. He was doing like the wait and bait method with that takedown. He would wait, and you didn't even know he was looking for the takedown. You thought maybe he was looking for the counter strike, and he got that takedown right at the perfect time on Coté on Coté. Multiple failed takedown attempts by Coté, though. And finally, Coté rocked Burkman with a right hand, dropped him, and finished him with some brutal ground and pound.
Yeah, he dropped him dead there. And landed, I think, like 200,000 right punches after that.
Yeah.
Jaron Verlel was the referee, taking...
That was
I want to say taking a sweet time about stopping that, though. There was Burkman. I know that Burkman looked like he was still in it there. He wasn't. His body hadn't gone limp.
Right.
But Coté was firing off shots. I mean, maybe that's just speaks to how fast Coté's rights were at that moment. You know,
it was a weird stoppage, and I'm not even going to say a late stoppage. It was a weird stoppage because this was like
wait. Now it's a late stoppage. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it just finished. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we finally got the win.
This was like the incline. Like it should have been stopped right here when it was like the most dangerous, and then it kind of got less dangerous, and it was like, okay, maybe he can survive now that he gave him so much time.
Right.
And it's like, okay, now stop it.
Yeah.
It was a little weird. I was like, wait a second.
There was a lot of shots taken there. But Burkman is a guy that can take shots.
As we saw through this match.
Yeah. I think that he probably should. Both guys were.
Coté was taking a beating too.
Yeah, exactly. Both these guys, look, they've got probably, I'm guessing 50 matches in between the two of them. I think Burkman himself might have been 10 and 20, or I'm sorry, no, 20 and 10. Excuse me. But it's at this point in their careers. I mean, if you have this many fights, you don't want to. I guess it's a mixed bag because it's so fan friendly to see two guys just go at it and wing it and land on each other's heads. But at the same time, you've got that much more of a legacy of taking shots to the head and concussions that you do and don't know about.
Diego Sanchez.
Yeah. Diego's a great case in point. That guys at this level and this experience level, really need to be that much more careful about the shots, a bit more calculated. I mean,
there's definitely
kicks to the body. Do a kick trade, please.
Right.
You know?
There's definitely two kinds of fighters in this game. I mean, there's tons of kinds, but these two seem to be the most popular. And I could name a couple. You have your Ronda Rousey, you have your Conor McGregor, your finishers, so to speak. They go in there, they get it done fast, and they get out. It doesn't always work, but usually, for the most part, that's what they tend to do. Then you have your fighters like your Diego Sanchez, Jessica Penne is one of them for the females. Mark Hunt's another one.
Vanderlei.
Where they will just sit there and duke it out.
Yeah.
And drag on the fight almost longer than it needs to go.
Right.
And then we do see their career shortened. We do see more scar tissue damage. And, as a fighter, it's kind of a conscious decision you have to make. It's something as a female that I think about a lot. I'm conscious of that. And it's not the reason I want to finish the fight sooner, but it's definitely in the back of my mind when I get in there. Like, you better get your ass in here, get it done, and get out.
And especially guys, again, at this experience level,
right?
There's a bit more to lose, a bit more to be careful about. Robert Duvall once said in a very famous film, he cracked a joke that I will paraphrase here, but in the 1988 Dennis Hopper opus Colors with Sean Penn. I believe they're in the car, and they're two cops. They're partnered up, and they're in the car together. And Robert Duvall decides to impart some words of wisdom on Sean Penn, the young rookie cop, the young upstart, and says, there's two bulls sitting over there on the bluff. And they're looking down. You see a whole herd of cows there, right? The baby bull says to Papa Bull, "Hey, let's run down there and screw one of those cows." And Papa Bull says, now mind you, I'm paraphrasing as well, okay? Just go see the movie, it's worth it. It's on Netflix. And Papa Bull says, "No, son, let's walk down there, screw them all." This is my point exactly about learning how to take shots better. You get older, you know how to conserve your energy and be careful and make sure that you use your energy appropriately in a match. It's important. Guys, take it to heart,
So the next fight on the card, no, that was a very good analogy, Jay.
Damn right.
Very long-winded, but very good. Yeah.
It was 12 matches. We got time to kill here. We're at the 30-minute mark in 9, 8, 7, 6. Go for it. Okay.
5. Okay. Anyway, we have some announcements, though. We have some cool new fights coming up.
Yeah, we have a lot of news.
A lot of news. Anyway, Neil Magny versus Eric Silva. This was the split decision of the night. I don't really see why it was a split decision, but Neil Magny defeated Eric Silva. So Magny gets the takedown. Silva gets the takedown. Magny gets the takedown. Landing beautiful ground and pound. Round one was Magny, though. He got the takedown. He controlled Eric Silva. But this is the thing about Eric Silva. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal, right? So when he got on top of Neil Magny, I think it looked more decisive than when Neil Magny got on top of Eric Silva. That being said, I usually judge these kinds of rounds by time, control time, you know, because there's no damage done. So then you take time into consideration. And going by that philosophy, Neil Magny completely controlled more than Eric Silva. Magny was the more consistent fighter, definitely the better cardio. You saw Silva getting really tired towards the end, and the more composed fighter. He was confident as hell in there, which kudos to him because he took the fight last minute.
He just came off a loss against Damian Maia, and he even mentioned in the post-fight interview, he was like, kind of humbled me in some ways. Obviously, I think they kept saying that this is his 9th fight in 18 months.
Yeah.
I said fight.
He is
9th fight in 18 months.
In 9 fights. One more match, and he will equal Frankie Perez's short
and you know what?
career.
You know what? That is something to say about his confidence in the cage. When you're in the cage that often, your confidence raises. And you see guys that have, long layoffs, maybe like a year, 6 months for injuries, they come back a little hesitant sometimes. So I think that familiarity, in the cage,
You got it close enough.
can sometimes be a good thing because you're like, oh, it's this again. It's cool.
He's on a Cerrone kick, which I may just have coined a phrase here, but
sure.
5-0 last year. Now I believe 4-1. Is that right? Yeah, 3-1 this year. He's on a roll. God bless him. He's not coming out injured. He's able to turn around. He also said that he's got to do out his 2-week mandatory medical suspension that all guys go on after, at least in this province, I guess. But it may just be also UFC regulation. But all guys after a fight, I don't know how many people know this, but all fighters are suspended for 2 weeks. 2 weeks that your body is forced to rest up. In the amateurs, it's 5 days, ironically. But
really?
He said after that, I'm going to sit on my couch for 2 weeks, and I'm ready to go after that. So this is not the last that we're going to see of Mr. Magny. And I, for one, am thrilled because I was a little bit, as we talked about last time, a little bit heartbroken that he had that loss to Maia. I really wanted to see him see a star rise with that one. But he's back on track.
He is back on track, and he's grown on me. He's one of those fighters, when I first saw him, I was like, do I like this guy? And as I continue to watch him grow, and his speed and his, like I said, confidence is really what sells me over in the cage. It's like, this guy's legit. He's the real deal. I mean, I always thought he was, but this sealed the deal. Last minute replacement fight, beats Eric Silva in such fashion. So congratulations to Neil Magny for moving up that ladder.
I'm not totally convinced that we'll see him in title contention, but I would love...
Ever?
Yeah. At least not in the UFC, but I would love to be proven wrong. I hope it happens. Right now, I don't see it because I think we did kind of see him hit a glass ceiling with Damian Maia. But here his wrestling was on point. I thought he did have all rounds. I don't think I gave anything. The second one I thought was close, but no, I take it back. I think I was leaning towards Silva on that one. But it was Neil's match for sure, and it's sometimes it's good to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
And I would love for that to happen.
We see it all the time. Fighters usually have pretty up and down careers. I mean, there's the few fighters like, John Jones and guys like that have pretty consistent careers. They're just winners. Fedor Emelianenko is a great example. But then we have other fighters they have their bumps and they have their peaks and their valleys. And
2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
We see it all the time with our local fighters. We constantly see wins, losses. It's a sport where sometimes the best man doesn't always win, and I'll be the first to admit that. And so Neil Magny had his loss against Damian Maia, although it was heartbreaking. I think he's back on the right track.
I hope so.
See a good Neil Magny.
I think we'll see him at least one more time. Watch him also sneak onto the
September
the year end.
The baby wagon.
The what?
Is that what we call it? The baby.
No, I was talking about him getting another fight. He's going to do the exact opposite of making babies.
Okay.
But I don't know his personal life.
Wait.
I'm sure his
let
wife
me
or
ask
girlfriend's
this:
beautiful.
if anyone's in our chat room or can hear me,
Nope.
answer me. Well, get in our chat room. Anyway, my question is: do guys take off work when the girls get pregnant for that long? Like, or the
Someplace.
Yeah, we go to the bar. High five.
Oh my!
right.
Neither of you have babies, so I'm not asking
Knock
you.
on wood.
But yeah. Oh gosh. But anyway,
some husbands do, depending on their job and
Yeah.
if the wife needs help.
Paternal leave, yeah.
but you're an MMA fighter. Like you don't. I mean, you're training every day, but you could still have the flexibility to be home at nights and stuff like that. Is that enough, or do you take off training?
You're asking me?
I really think that it really depends.
It depends.
Yeah.
It certainly
Yeah.
depends on the fighter. Do you own the gym? Do you have to teach the classes there? This and that. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, just wondering. Since we're in a room full of baby daddies, not bad question. Anyway, so we have Max Holloway, the number 5 ranked contender, defeating Charles Oliveira, the number
this
7
match.
ranked contender, via TKO. In quote, esophagus injury.
Yeah. Strangest
This
occurrence
was the
here.
weirdest thing ever.
One of.
Let's talk about the sequence. I thought Holloway was fast. He was bouncy. I mean, we're all selling in for a fantastic 5 rounds war. You know, it was going to be speedy, technical, probably a lot of power as well. Surprisingly, surprisingly relative to them
To the
being
weight class.
45ers.
Yeah,
yes.
of course.
Oliveira shoots in for a takedown. Holloway is more or less, he's almost against the cage, but kind of backs up towards it, is able to kind of sidestep, or I think as Dominic Cruz explained, he shifted stances, went southpaw to get his foot out of the way in the takedown shot. Was it Oliveira basically kind of, he grabbed for the double, but his body, was it his... I think it was his left shoulder seemed to go into the cage, and he rolled over to his back basically for guard. Holloway stepped away and said, "Now let's keep it standing." Oliveira gets up and is immediately holding his collarbone there, or what looks like his collarbone.
Backs up into the cage.
Right, backs up into the cage. Herb Dean says, keep going. And by that point, Oliveira is even kind of waving the whole thing off, and it is, again, one of those moments where nobody's quite sure, even the referee is not quite sure what's going on there, but Holloway goes on the attack because the referee is not called off the fight. 2 punches, 2 body shots, and then Herb Dean calls it off. And Oliveira, you see immediately sink down to the bottom and even fall backwards on his back, and that really started to concern me. I had no idea what was going on, but the way that everything just stopped to a dead halt in that arena was pretty scary.
So the moment that I kind of thought something was wrong, but then I thought I might have been mistaken, was when he was down on the ground against the cage. I saw him hesitate. It was what is he doing? And then when Holloway stood up, he didn't immediately follow. If you're in the beginning of the first round and someone stands you up, you jump to your feet, of course. You don't take your time. In the 5th round of a 5-round fight, you take your time. We've seen that 100 times.
There was no fatigue involved, obviously.
Right. And he hesitated. I'm like, why isn't this guy getting up? He's a little 145-pounder. I expected him to spring to his feet, and he didn't.
Right.
So that's when I noticed something was wrong. And then, of course, he grabbed his collarbone, what it looked like, shoulder collarbone, and they waved off the fight, whatever. And I immediately thought, oh, he must have broken his clavicle or something here must have broken. He said he just felt numbness all over his body.
Yeah.
I don't know if they released exactly what the injury was. He said he had neck problems leading into this fight, though. And he kind of ignored it. He kind of said, oh, I probably shouldn't have. Should have let it heal fully. I don't know if that led to this or was related to this, but I guess we'll find out in the coming days.
Was it was either Bloody Elbow or Fox Sports, I think, that ran the article
Yeah.
saying...
MMA Weekly said Charles Oliveira suffered a tear in his esophagus.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's serious stuff. Now, I talked to a doctor on the way up here, actually, to kind of get an idea. Esophagus, obviously, you need it for breathing. So that's kind of an important thing.
You would think so,
yeah. But a tear, what exactly? The report I read said a micro tear, and I wasn't quite sure what exactly that meant. The esophagus, essentially, not a medical. I'm not going to go into a medical thing here, but as I said, you need it to breathe. A micro tear, the esophagus is an organ that can heal pretty well. I don't know if they've done surgery or what exactly is going on with him yet, but if left alone, it can heal. It's not something that you don't come back from it the same. It's not like a detached retina, which now is always at risk of detaching again. Or a broken arm, or a joint or whatever.
Right.
This is something that I think can heal. What is going to be a potential threat, however, I found interesting, is infection, which hopefully won't be the case, obviously. But if a tear in that part of the body gets infected, it can spread pretty quickly to the lungs and the heart, because the esophagus goes apparently behind the lungs and the heart.
Wow.
And if it gets in there at all, is going to be an issue. That's going to be the bigger thing for them, I believe, to watch for, because that infection can spread, and at that point it can be fatal.
One of the first times I saw like a freak injury in the cage was coincidentally with Patrick Coté. He was facing Anderson Silva, and then literally he stepped back and he just started clenching
his knee, right?
Yeah, he started clenching his knee. I'm like, wow, that's coincidental that Patrick Coté is on the same card. But yeah, sucks for everyone involved. I'm sure Max Holloway didn't want to win this way.
Hopefully Charles Oliveira got the cues from his doctor to stay away from that infection, and hopefully take care of it properly and come back soon.
Yeah.
Max Holloway, congratulations for the victory, though. I mean, a victory is a victory. We've seen this time and time again.
Called out Frankie Edgar.
Isn't that a fun one?
That's a fun one. So, guys, two big announcements that I want to talk about. Ronda versus Holly Holm.
Of course, I want to talk about it.
Hashtag premature Dana White. Premature. She's had 2 fights in the UFC.
I agree.
She's had 2 fights in the UFC. Her other fights could have been, I didn't look them up, but I should have, could have been for organizations that aren't even sanctioned.
It's Legacy. She's fought for Legacy
that's
on
legit.
Access TV.
That's
I think
legit.
she went undefeated there.
Okay.
Yeah,
I give her
she's
that.
undefeated.
But come on. Ronda Rousey, you feed her to the sharks. She had 2 fights. She looked good in her fights, but she didn't look great. She starts off slow. That scares the shit out of me.
I haven't seen any notices or any explanation why not Miesha Tate.
They just said market it from a marketing standpoint. It's just better to fight. It's better to fight someone new.
I kind of agree.
True.
I just feel bad for Miesha Tate, because she said, "Hey, I found out like everyone else. I didn't get a phone call. My management didn't get a phone call or nothing." I just kind of suck. So
it does suck.
There was
And in related news, Bellator MMA opens up their women's division again.
Yeah, that's ironic.
No, that was a joke. They haven't.
No, but I heard they were.
Oh, hey, what do I know?
That's so funny you said.
Apparently, I know more than I know.
They're the only ever Bellator women's champion, Zoila, I think her name is.
Zoila Frausto.
I heard she's coming back and possibly to Bellator. So
I did not know
that's
that.
really funny you said that. But anyway, Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey. It's a little premature. I feel bad for Miesha Tate. Holm should have fought Miesha before Ronda, or Kat at least before Ronda. What happened to the gatekeeper?
But on the same
Just
card,
Evil Eye's not a gatekeeper.
on the same card, I think they announced Joanna and Jędrzejczyk versus Claudia Gadelha.
Yeah.
Which a fight that we've all been looking forward to, obviously, with this nice little rematch.
It's a rematch that we need, because the last one was way too close.
That one's going to deliver.
Yeah.
Khabib Nurmagomedov
Yep.
against fighting Tony Ferguson.
Yep.
Okukui. That's going to be a fun fight. Finally, I mean, hopefully Khabib doesn't get hurt again. I know there was a big thing at the what fight were they? A World Series of Fighting where he got fought with the Diaz brothers. I'm like, come on, man. You guys are adults, dude. Joe Lozon's fighting Evan Dunham in December. Like, a lot of good fights. Uriah Hall's fighting Gegard Mousasi. Man, I'm excited. Michael Bisping, Robert Whittaker. I just want to ask you. I know we're going to wrap up pretty soon.
I love Robert Whittaker.
We're asking pretty soon. I am so sick and tired of people saying if Chad Mendes had a full camp, he'd win. And it's just like, dude, number one, you're a fighter. Number two, if you're not ready to fight, then don't fight.
Right.
You know, if
Well, no, not in that scenario. They needed him to fight. You kidding? You get that call to save the pay-per-view like that.
They get Frank Edgar. I'm sure Frank Edgar would have been more than happy to fight.
You don't know that Frankie Edgar was ready. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't.
I just feel like when you're a fighter, it's your full-time job.
At that level, absolutely.
At that level especially. Like, I mean, if you're a workhorse, you're a workhorse, and you should be able to take a fight anytime,
and even McGregor, yes, he had a camp, but he was preparing for Jose Aldo. He wasn't preparing for Chad Mendes.
Which a lot of people undermine that. They think, oh, well, he's preparing for a fight anyway. No. He was preparing for a very specific fight.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Us, as high-level fighters, they do that. specifically train for one guy.
But if you're
So-
at that high level, you need to be able to
To pull
just
it-
like going anytime.
You're right.
Anybody
And,
as
and
well.
another one
You're
too
right.
is a lot of people have been saying too. Oh, if the fight wasn't in Mexico, Cain Velasquez would have totally beat Fabrice Verdun. That's another one.
We'll find out.
That's another one where if you're a fighter, you got to do everything to prepare. That's part of being a fighter.
I get crowd energy feeding you, but my
The altitude.
are you talking about altitude?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, then never mind. But altitude sucks. No, but as far as crowd energy goes, though, like, even if it's bad energy, even if you're getting booed, that's still, like, it's fueling. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion. Ronda Rousey agrees.
When
So,
have you ever
I'm
gotten
right.
booed?
Well, I haven't
Shut up.
yet. But,
When you do, we will see.
all right.
In fact, I may try and do that.
I
from
don't
now
know
on.
anything.
I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that. Actually, I mean, the crowd thing had nothing to do with the altitude.
Actually, I was booed on Tough Enough. I forget what they said, but they did. Someone did boo me. But yeah, and I was
that doesn't count. That doesn't count. It's not a.
MMA fight. Okay.
Yes, it's not an MMA fight.
Another topic for another day.
But next card is
next card is Johnson versus Dodson. We will see you here in 2
That's gonna be
weeks.
That's gonna be a fun card.
A fun size card.
A lot of great fights. I'm looking forward to mostly Frank Mir versus Andre Arlovsky and your girl Paige Van Zant's fighting. Of course, the main event, like I said, but that heavyweight fight, I feel it's going to be such. I think it's going to be as good as Duffy Mir was, as good as Arlov Travis Brown was. Now you put those two winners together. Who knows what we're going to see?
I agree. I think it's going to be a good one. Guys, we will see you here in 2 weeks. There's no UFC next week.
But you can follow me at G Hermoza. The
And give him-
hashtag road to 400 followers begins.
How about road to 700 tweets or 800 tweets? Get to 1,000 tweets, then maybe we should
really?
talk about it.
Hold on.
You're not there yet, man.
I don't know. I
I
need
think
to check it out.
775,
796.
796.
Bam!
I'm
he needs
tweeting.
to tweet more.
Not-
Anyway, guys, we will see you later. You can find me at Tough Daria on all social media. Guys, where can we find you?
At G Hermoza.
J10 716 all over the place. Mom, I'll see you soon.
Bye, Mom.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.